Welcome. Today we're diving into the fascinating world of neurons and synapses. These tiny structures are the building blocks of our nervous system, allowing us to think, move, and feel. Neurons are specialized cells that transmit information throughout the body. Without them, none of our thoughts, actions, or sensations would be possible. In this video, we'll explore what neurons are, how they work, and why synapses are essential for brain function. Let's start by understanding the basic structure and role of neurons in our bodies. Neuron is a nerve cell, and it's the fundamental unit of the brain and nervous system. Each neuron is designed to receive, process, and transmit information. Neurons come in various shapes and sizes, but they all share some common features. These include a cell body, dendrites, and an axon. The cell body contains the nucleus and keeps the neuron alive. Dendrites branch out from the cell body and receive signals from other neurons. The axon is a long, thin structure that carries signals away from the cell body to other neurons or muscles. Let's take a closer look at the cell body, also known as the soma. This part of the neuron contains the nucleus, which holds the cell's genetic material. The cell body is responsible for maintaining the health of the neuron and producing the proteins and energy needed for its function. It acts as the control center, integrating incoming signals from the dendrites and deciding whether to send a signal down the axon. Without a healthy cell body, the neuron wouldn't be able to function properly. Dendrites are like the branches of a tree, spreading out from the cell body to receive information from other neurons. These structures are covered in tiny protrusions called dendritic spines, which increase their surface area and allow them to form more connections. When a neuron receives a signal, it usually arrives at the dendrites. The dendrites then pass this information to the cell body where it's processed. The more dendrites a neuron has, the more information it can receive from its neighbor. Once the cell body decides to send a message, it travels down the axon. The axon is a long cable-like extension that can be very short or extend over a meter in some cases. Its main job is to carry electrical impulses away from the cell body toward other neurons, muscles, or glands. At the end of the axon, the signal reaches the axon terminals, which are responsible for passing the message on to the next cell. This process is essential for communication within the nervous system. Any axons are wrapped in a fatty layer called the myelin sheath. This sheath acts like insulation, helping electrical signals travel faster and more efficiently along the axon. Myelin is produced by special cells called glial cells. Without myelin, signals would move much more slowly, and communication between neurons would be less reliable. Diseases like multiple sclerosis occur when myelin is damaged, leading to problems with movement and sensation. At the end of each axon are the axon terminals. These small branches are where the neuron communicates with other cells. When an electrical signal reaches the axon terminal, it triggers the release of chemicals called neurotransmitters. These chemicals cross the gap between neurons, known as the synapse, and pass the message to the next cell. The axon terminals are crucial for ensuring that signals are sent to the right place at the right time. Synapse is the tiny gap between two neurons, or between a neuron and another cell, such as a muscle cell. It's at the synapse that communication between cells actually happens. When an electrical signal reaches the end of an axon, it can't jump the gap directly. Instead, it triggers the release of neurotransmitters, which carry the message across the synapse to the next cell. This process is essential for everything from moving your muscles to forming memory. Neurotransmitters are chemical messengers that play a key role in transmitting signals across synapses. When an electrical impulse reaches the axon terminal, it causes vesicles filled with neurotransmitters to fuse with the cell membrane and release their contents into the synaptic gap. These chemicals then bind to receptors on the next cell, triggering a response. Different neurotransmitters have different effects, influencing mood, movement, and even sleep. There are many types of neurotransmitters, each with its own specific function. For example, dopamine is involved in reward and motivation, while serotonin affects mood and sleep. Acetylcholine helps control muscle movement, and glutamate is important for learning and memory. The balance of these chemicals is crucial for healthy brain function, and imbalances can lead to various neurological and psychological disorders. Synaptic transmission is the process by which signals are passed from one neuron to another across the synapse. It starts with an electrical impulse traveling down the axon to the axon terminal. Their neurotransmitters are released into the synaptic gap. These chemicals then bind to receptors on the next cell, causing it to generate its own electrical signal. This process happens incredibly fast, allowing us to react to our environment in real time. Not all synapses have the same effect. Some are excitatory, meaning they increase the likelihood that the next neuron will fire an electrical signal. Others are inhibitory, making it less likely for the next neuron to fire. The balance between excitatory and inhibitory signals is essential for proper brain function. Too much excitation can lead to seizures, while too much inhibition can cause problems with movement or alertness. Neurons rarely work alone. Instead, they form complex networks with each neuron connecting to thousands of others. These neural networks are responsible for everything from simple reflexes to complex thoughts and emotions. The strength and pattern of these connections determine how information flows through the brain, shaping our abilities and behaviors. Learning and experience can change these networks, a process known as neuroplasticity. Neuroplasticity is the brain's ability to reorganize itself by forming new neural connections. This process allows us to learn new skills, recover from injuries, and adapt to changes in our environment. When we practice something repeatedly, the connections between neurons involved in that activity become stronger. This is why practice makes perfect. Neuroplasticity is most active during childhood but continues throughout life. Sensory neurons are specialized to detect information from the environment, such as light, sound, touch, and temperature. They carry this information to the brain and spinal cord where it can be processed and interpreted. Without sensory neurons, we wouldn't be able to experience the world around us. These neurons have unique structures that allow them to respond to specific types of stimuli. Motor neurons are responsible for carrying signals from the brain and spinal cord to muscles and glands. When you decide to move your arm or blink your eyes, it's motor neurons that make it happen. These neurons have long axons that reach from the spinal cord all the way to the muscles they control. Damage to motor neurons can lead to muscle weakness or paralysis. Neurons are the connectors of the nervous system. They link sensory and motor neurons, allowing information to be processed and responses to be coordinated. Most interneurons are found in the brain and spinal cord, where they play a key role in reflexes, learning, and decision-making. Their complex networks enable us to perform sophisticated tasks and adapt to new situations. Reflex arc is a simple neural pathway that controls a reflex action. For example, when you touch something hot, sensory neurons send a signal to the spinal cord, where interneurons quickly relay the message to motor neurons. This causes your muscles to contract and pull your hand away, often before you're even aware of the pain. Reflex arcs help protect us from harm by providing rapid, automatic responses. Neurons communicate using electrical signals called action potentials. When a neuron is stimulated, it generates an action potential that travels down the axon. This electrical impulse is how information moves rapidly from one end of the neuron to the other. The speed and efficiency of these signals are crucial for everything from moving your fingers to solving math problems. Even when a neuron isn't actively sending a signal, it maintains a resting potential. This is a difference in electrical charge across the cell membrane, with the inside of the neuron being more negative than the outside. The resting potential is maintained by ion pumps and channels in the membrane. When the neuron is stimulated, this balance changes, leading to the generation of an action potential. Action potential is a rapid change in electrical charge that travels along the axon. When a neuron receives enough stimulation, ion channels open, allowing positive ions to rush in. This causes the inside of the neuron to become more positive, creating a wave of electrical activity that moves down the axon. Once the signal passes, the neuron returns to its resting state, ready to fire again. Neuron only fires an action potential if the incoming signal reaches a certain threshold. If the threshold isn't met, nothing happens. But if it is, the neuron fires at full strength. This is known as the all or none law. This principle ensures that signals are transmitted clearly and reliably without being weakened as they travel. Once an action potential is generated, it travels down the axon like a wave. This process is called propagation. In myelinated axons, the action potential jumps from one node to the next, speeding up transmission. This rapid movement allows us to react quickly to our environment, whether we're catching a ball or pulling our hand away from something hot. Synaptic plasticity refers to the ability of synapses to strengthen or weaken over time. This is a key mechanism for learning and memory. When two neurons communicate frequently, their connection becomes stronger, making it easier for signals to pass between them. Conversely, connections that are rarely used may weaken or disappear. Synaptic plasticity allows the brain to adapt and change throughout life. Long-term potentiation, or LTP, is a long-lasting increase in the strength of a synapse. It's considered one of the main mechanisms underlying learning and memory. When two neurons are repeatedly activated together, the synapse between them becomes more efficient at transmitting signals. This makes it easier for the same pathway to be activated in the future, reinforcing learning. Long-term depression, or LTD, is the opposite of LTP. It's a long-lasting decrease in the strength of a synapse. LTD is important for forgetting unnecessary information and for fine-tuning neural circuits. By weakening certain connections, the brain can focus on more important or relevant information, helping us adapt to new situations. During development, the brain produces more synapses than it needs. Over time, unused or unnecessary connections are eliminated in a process called synaptic pruning. This helps make neural networks more efficient and is especially active during childhood and adolescence. Pruning allows the brain to adapt to its environment and optimize its function. Most synapses in the brain are chemical synapses. Here, the signal is transmitted by neurotransmitters released from the axon terminal of one neuron and received by receptors on the next cell. Chemical synapses allow for complex modulation of signals, making them essential for learning, memory, and emotion. Electrical synapses are less common but allow for very fast communication between neurons. In these synapses, ions pass directly from one cell to another through gap junctions, enabling rapid and synchronized activity. Electrical synapses are important in certain brain regions where speed is critical, such as those controlling reflexes and rhythmic movements. Neurons don't work alone. Glial cells are the support team of the nervous system. They provide structural support, supply nutrients, remove waste, and help maintain the environment around neurons. Some glial cells, like oligodendrocytes and Schwann cells, produce the myelin sheath that insulates axons. Others, like astrocytes, help regulate the chemical balance in the brain. Astrocytes are star-shaped glial cells that play many roles in the brain. They help maintain the blood-brain barrier, regulate blood flow, and provide nutrients to neurons. Astrocytes also help clean up excess neurotransmitters and maintain the balance of ions in the brain. Their support is essential for healthy neural function. Oligodendrocytes and Schwann cells are types of glial cells that produce myelin. Oligodendrocytes are found in the central nervous system, while Schwann cells are in the peripheral nervous system. By wrapping around axons, these cells help speed up the transmission of electrical signals, ensuring rapid communication throughout the body. Microglia are the immune cells of the brain. They constantly monitor the brain for signs of infection or injury and remove damaged cells and debris. Microglia also play a role in synaptic pruning during development, helping to shape neural circuits. Their activity is crucial for protecting the brain and maintaining its health. Let's review how neurons communicate. First, a neuron receives a signal at its dendrites. If the signal is strong enough, it generates an action potential that travels down the axon. When the signal reaches the axon terminal, neurotransmitters are released into the synapse. These chemicals cross the gap and bind to receptors on the next cell, continuing the chain of communication. This process happens in milliseconds, allowing for rapid responses. Neurons receive input from thousands of other cells. The cell body integrates all these incoming signals, both excitatory and inhibitory. If the combined effect reaches the threshold, the neuron fires an action potential. This integration allows the brain to process complex information and make decisions based on multiple sources of input. Summation refers to how neurons add up incoming signals. Temporal summation occurs when signals arrive at the same place in quick succession, while spatial summation happens when signals arrive at different places on the neuron at the same time. Both types of summation help determine whether the neuron will fire an action potential. After neurotransmitters have done their job, they need to be removed from the synapse. This can happen through reuptake, where the neurotransmitters are taken back into the axon terminal, or through enzyme breakdown, where they are broken down into inactive components. These processes ensure that signals are brief and precise. Many drugs and medications affect synaptic function. Some increase the amount of neurotransmitter in the synapse, while others block receptors or prevent reuptake. These changes can alter mood, perception, and behavior. Understanding how drugs affect synapses helps us develop treatments for neurological and psychiatric disorders. Problems with neurons or synapses can lead to a variety of disorders. For example, Parkinson's disease is caused by the loss of dopamine-producing neurons, while Alzheimer's disease involves the breakdown of synaptic connections. Epilepsy results from abnormal electrical activity in neural networks. Research into these disorders is helping us find new ways to treat and prevent them. Neurogenesis is the process of creating new neurons. While most neurons are formed before birth, some areas of the brain continue to produce new neurons throughout life, especially in regions involved in learning and memory. Neurogenesis is influenced by factors like exercise, stress, and environment, and may play a role in recovery from brain injury. As we age, changes occur in our neurons and synapses. Some connections may weaken or disappear, and the production of certain neurotransmitters can decrease. These changes can affect memory, movement, and mood. However, staying mentally and physically active can help maintain healthy neural function throughout life. Learning involves changes in the strength and number of synaptic connections between neurons. When we learn something new, certain pathways in the brain become more active and new connections may form. This process underlies our ability to acquire new skills and knowledge throughout life. Memory formation depends on changes in synaptic strength and the creation of new connections between neurons. Short-term memories are stored by temporary changes in synaptic activity, while long-term memories involve more permanent structural changes. Sleep, repetition, and emotional significance all play a role in how memories are formed and retained. To sum up, neurons and synapses are the foundation of the nervous system. Neurons transmit electrical and chemical signals, while synapses allow these signals to pass from one cell to another. Together, they enable us to think, move, feel, and learn. Understanding how they work helps us appreciate the complexity and power of the human brain. As research continues, we're learning more about how neurons and synapses function and how they can be influenced by genetics, environment, and experience. This knowledge is opening up new possibilities for treating brain disorders and enhancing brain health. The study of neurons and synapses remains one of the most exciting frontiers in science, with much more to discover in the years ahead.